Hello guys and welcome to my new video. So they decided to have an overview of the BOOMKIN Tier 21 AoE rotational changes that have came about with the use of Tier 21 4-set and the use of Lady in the Child legendary shoulders. So there's been quite a lot of confusion in terms of how Tier 21 and the legendary shoulders affect the rotation on AoE, on how many tags, like for example, it is recommended to actually use Moonfire instead of Solar Rat, unempowered Solar Rat on AoE pulls, depending on how many targets, depending on the secondary legendaries they use, depending on your talents and your tiers. So there is a lot of kind of confusion going around. So I am using like multiple guides as resources. All of the guides are going to be linked in the description below. They all are really good. They provide a lot of information and frequently asked questions about Boomkins. Balanced Druid Discord is great source of information if you're unsure about anything. So this is going to be a very basic overview of how the rotational changes are affected by Tier 21 and the legendary shoulder. So let's first look at the legendary choice and build. So for example, I have an AoE build and I have a single target build. I'm not really gonna cover single target build. I'm just gonna quickly mention it. So single target build, you most likely will be using Tier 24 set because Tier 24 set is still the best option for pure single target fights. It is around 30 item level upgrade. If you get Tier 21, which is 30 item level higher than your Tier 20, you probably will want to switch over to Tier 21 for single target, but that's probably not going to happen for a little while unless you don't have any of the Tier 20 pieces. So I have Tier 24 set and I have Tier 21 2 set. And the single target rotation doesn't really change, and I'm not really gonna cover the single target rotation on this. I'm just going to maybe link an image with a sample of it. So it's the same. Single target is the same with Tier 24 set and Tier 21 2 set. The legendaries that I use, this combo seems to be really good, and it's recommended for a lot of the fights. Honest Intuition and Impeccable Fell Essence. It can work really great. I'm using it purely for the fact because Impeccable Fell Essence can really make your incarnation align really well for certain situations. So let's have a look at the AoE rotation, AoE talent build, AoE legendary build, and things like that. So there's quite a few choices in terms of legendaries. First of all, I have an AoE build that's using Lady in the Child, Shoulders, and Solo the Archdruid Ring. Now, Lady in the Child, Shoulders is probably one of the best AoE legendaries that Boomkin has. It's used in combination with a lot of other legendaries for AoE situations, but this legendary seems to be always there. It's always there as part of the AoE rotation, as part of the AoE legendary build for a Boomkin. And the second legendary, Solo the Archdruid, is much more replaceable. Like for example, I could actually opt in to use even an Impeccable Fell Essence Ring if I needed the incarnation reduction. If I wanted, I could also swap into Honest Intuition. Honest Intuition is actually a very good legendary for single target and AoE. It is a bit orangey because Star Surge and Starfall each have 20% chance to make each other free. So it is an orangey proc, but it ranks very well for single target and AoE. So it's, like I said, Solo the Archdruid, Honest Intuition, Impeccable Fell Essence, and even things like Radiant Moonlight. Radiant Moonlight has become a much more sought after legendary because of its astral power generation. Because with Tier 21 4 set and Moonfire spam, astral power is much harder to generate. Moonfire does not generate that much astral power, so your main astral power generators are your moon spells, full moon and things like that. So I'll cover Radiant Moonlight a bit later on. It is legitimately a decent choice for some scenarios. So first of all, this is probably what you're going to be running, let's say in Mythic Plus. Maybe you'll opt in to use something like this combination of legendaries in some of the raids and things like that. So I'm going to be covering the talent choices for these two legendaries. For Lady in the Child, mainly Lady in the Child, Tier 21 4 set, and this talent build. So let's look at this talent build right here. So this is probably a default AoE build. Star-Lord, Displacer Beast, these don't really matter. These don't really matter either. I opt in with Typhoon. And now you choose incarnation. You want a better incarnation because with Solo the Archdruid Ring you get Solo the Forest for free, which is really important, and it's going to affect your rotation. And you'll see later on, Shooting Stars is the default AoE build again. If you want to go single target, you'll go with the Blessing of the Ancients. And Stellar Drift is also another important talent that's going to affect your rotation as well. So if you're running with this standard build for AoE, and if you're running for legendary with legendaries like Lady in the Child, so the Archdruid, so your AoE rotation is going to look something like this, or the priority. First of all, keeping up Moonfire or keeping up dots is one of the most important things you can do. So you can see here that my actually Moonfire is not really being applied. Like for example, my Lady in the Child, Moonfire deals 20% increased damage and also hits another nearby target within 20 yards. It's really important to make sure that Moonfire gets reapplied on the second target. So if the target is within 20 yards, it's going to be reapplied. The problem why it's not working here, because these targets are not legitimately in combat with me. So it's not reapplying properly. But for example, every time I'll Moonfire, it should be applied to a second target. You want to apply Sunfire. The general rule for Sunfire is that you want the adds to be relatively close together. So just one application of Sunfire is going to apply Sunfire to everyone. So you just have to Sunfire and then Moonfire a couple of times. And then everyone has dots on them. So this is really, really important. After that, you want to maintain 100% uptime of Starfall. Now you see, for example, here I have my Concordance proc, and you see this thing here, right here? This is the tier 21 4-set buff. So this is the buff. When you cast Star Surge or Starfall, the damage of your Moonfire and Sunfire spells is increased by 20% for 6 seconds. So that's really, really important, because Starfall by itself is 8 seconds and the tier 21 4-set buff is 6 seconds. So you basically need to cast Starfall every 6 seconds. And this can be problematic because, for example, if you are targeting 2 to 3 targets, so for example, if I'm facing these 3 targets right here, this is your legitimate pull in Mythic Plus content, you're going to be reapplying dots. I'm going to try apply as many dots as you can, and then you're going to be Starfalling. And after that, you need to maintain Starfall, you have the buff, and then you'll be Moonfire spamming them. You'll be just Moonfire spamming them until you can reapply Starfall again. So this is a legitimate way of, this is a legitimate rotation for 2 to 3 targets in Raid or Mythic Plus scenarios using the Lady in the Child legendary. Now it's also important to know that if you're doing Mythic Plus and things like that, you should be pooling astral power. So you should have, for example, you should have at least 40 or whatever astral power already. So the minute you come in with the 3-pack, you place Starfall. It's actually also recommended that you place Starfall and then you start reapplying dots, and then you can reapply dots straight away on all of the targets. That's what I refer to as pooling astral power. In Mythic Plus content, it's really, really important when the pack is about to die, when you know you have the chance to actually just save your astral power, make sure you have enough for the next pull, and then you can actually Starfall at the start and then dot everyone up. So pooling astral power is really, really important because of how tier 21 rotation works. Like I said, keeping dots up, keeping Starfall up, and then just basically Moonfire spam. And how do you get the astral resources? You use your use your moon spells. You use your moon spells to generate astral power, and then you go back to the Moonfire spam. Again, I'm using my moon spells again, and keep making sure that I can Starfall every 6 seconds to keep my tier 21 4-set buff running. And make sure that the dots are there. Again, if I'm running out of astral power, use the full moon. And you can use full moon to your own discretion. It's also important to know that if you do have a lot of astral power running, let's say for example I'm going to have a full astral power at the very start, I'm going into a pull. I can try and maintain 2 Starfalls. If you have that much resources, you can try as long as you can cast the second Starfall within the tier 21 4-set buff. So basically you can maintain multiple Starfalls, but only if you know that you won't lose the tier 21 4-set buff. That's really, really important. And then you just keep Moonfiring. So this is the whole Moonfire rotation. Now, it kind of changes with 4 players. So if you have 4 targets that you are attacking in mythic plus and raids or whatever. Now, instead of moon firing them, first of all, you have to keep dots up on everyone. That's the most important part. Keeping dots up on everyone is really, really important. So you make sure you moonfire, sunfire is there, and then you starfall, but now you're just going to be casting Solar Wrath. Why are you casting Solar Wrath instead of moonfire? Just because you're casting Solar Wrath to generate enough astral power so you can cast Starfall before the tier 21 4 set buff expires. So you're maintaining dots, you make sure no dots fall off, you're maintaining Starfall, and by maintaining Starfall every 6 seconds, you make sure the tier 21 4 set is there. So with 4 players, with 4 targets, you should be casting Solar Wrath instead of Moonfire. Now, there is also an additional thing to keep in mind. Let's say, for example, this information has been kind of contradictory. I've been looking at a lot of guides and talking to a lot of people on Discord and things like that. If these 4 players would be very close together when they will use my Lunar Strike. So if these 4 players, I've gotten kind of different information about this, but the general consensus seems to be. Now, I would definitely double check. This might change or not, or there might be more tier crafting done. But the general consensus seemed to be that if these 4 players would be grouped up together, and if my Lunar Strike could hit all of them, like you see, for example, it's only hitting 1 person at the moment. If they were all together, and if I would be able to cleave them with my Lunar Strike, with 4 targets, it is advisable to use Lunar Strike instead of Solar Wrath. So you can actually see, for example, in here, I can't really hit it, but if they were together, I would be maintaining my buffs, maintaining my dots on all the 4 players. Again, it's really hard for me to do it because they're not stacked up. Maintaining my Starfall, and then I'll be casting my Lunar Strike. I'll be casting my Lunar Strike to maintain it, and then casting my Starfall to keep maintaining my tier 21 4 set. And on top of that, I'll try and maintain my dots. But like I said, they have to be grouped up. If they're not grouped up, Solar Wrath is your filler with 4 targets. But if you're facing 3 targets instead, it's all about that Moonfire spam. It's all about that Moonfire spam. So this has been the main difference in terms of rotational changes with Late in the Child, with tier 21 4 set buff. Like I said, you should definitely have a weak aura that showcases when you have your tier 21 4 set, how long is it to expire. Like I said, for example, if you do maintain a lot of astral power, you can have multiple Starfalls up, but just make sure that you will have enough Starfalls to reapply the buff again. That's really, really, really important as well. So now let's cover single target rotation with your AoE gear. Let's say, for example, you're doing a boss or you're doing a dungeon, and you have your Late in the Child equipped, you have your AoE talents, you have your Stellar Drift talent. That's really, really important. If you have a Stellar Drift talent, if you have your Late in the Child, you have your Soul of the Archdruid, and you're about to do a boss. You're about to do a single target fight, and you're like, oh, it's either I missed the time to swap my gear, or I know there's going to be ads coming in later on. And tier 21 is still a legitimate good choice, but there is this portion of the fight where you need to do a single target damage. So this is where the fun kind of begins. First of all, keeping up dots is one of the most important parts of the rotation. Keeping up dots with tier 21 is probably the most important part of the rotation. And then after that, for single target, you want to maintain Starfall. That's right. For single target boss, you maintain your dots, and you maintain 1 Starfall. And why do you maintain 1 Starfall? Why do I need to care about the Starfall? Mainly because if you actually go and look at your Starfall spell, your spell in the spell book, you'll see that Starfall also applies Stellar Empowerment to each target, which increases periodic damage taken from your Moonfire spell and Sunfire by a specific number. It's going to change based on your gear and things like that. But Stellar Empowerment. Your Starfall increases your dot damage. So with tier 21, it's all about the dot damage. Late in the Child is all about that dot damage. Stellar Drift is all about that Starfall. And Soul of the Archdruid lets you Starfall at 40% astral power. So you can actually legitimately maintain buffs, maintain your dots, maintain Starfall, use your full moons, And then with the excess astral power, just Star Surge. Extra, when you get extra Starfall, and then you just use your empowerments. And anytime you get an extra astral power, you will be using Star Surges. But the most important part here is to maintain your Starfall, is to use your full moons, is to use your excess astral power to Star Surge, and make sure that your tier 21 buff is being maintained. That's the rotational changes. And you don't actually spam Moonfire as a filler, you spam Solar Rat. Your Solar Rat is still a filler for this. So like I said, Moonfire is only becomes a viable option to spam on 2 to 3 targets. So 2 to 3 targets. After 4 targets, you want to start considering using Lunar Strike, or you want to consider using Solar Rat if it cannot cleave. If your Lunar Strike cannot cleave. So this has been rotational changes for single target with AoE gear. Now let's look at another really interesting option. Radiant Moonlight, the cloak, which has become a much better option. So Radiant Moonlight, because what it does, full moon becomes a full moon once more before resetting to new moon. So moon spells are basically the best way to generate astral power. It's one of the best ways to generate astral power, and because of how tier 21 Moonfire build doesn't really generate that much astral power, you can use Radiant Moonlight to maintain multiple Starfalls. So Radiant Moonlight can sometimes it is recommended, or if you do end up using Radiant Moonlight on 4 to 6 targets, so on large pulls, on large AoE pulls, you can actually maintain multiple Starfalls because you'll be using your moon spells to generate astral power. Once you maintain multiple Starfalls, you can actually just Moonfire. You can maintain Moonfire on 4 to 6 targets. You can just Moonfire all day long because you know your full moon is going to... you get an additional full moon. So you know you have that backup resource to generate extra astral power, so you can maintain your Starfalls and you can get that tier 21 4-set buff. So with Radiant Moonlight, I can't really show you Radiant Moonlight right now because I don't have the tier 21 helm, so I can't use the Lady and Child and Radiant Moonlight to showcase this exactly. So let's say, for example, I swap out one of my rings, my Solo the Archdude Legendary, and I swap in Radiant Moonlight Cloak. Now, I don't have the tier 21 4-set buff because I don't have the Legendary Helm, but you can see the amount of extra astral power you can maintain. So for example, I keep maintaining my dots, I have my Starfall up, I keep maintaining my dots. Now you should see the tier 21 4-set buff here, but you can see I'm using my full moon to maintain multiple Starfalls. I can use my full moon again to maintain another Starfall. You can see here I'm just being overcapped on astral power. So I can maintain multiple Starfalls and I can just spam Moonfire on these targets. And that is basically the reasoning for using Radiant Moonlight. Radiant Moonlight is actually a very good legendary depending on the fight. Like I said, your rotation is going to change if you're using Radiant Moonlight on 4 to 6 targets. You're going to be spamming Moonfire, maintaining multiple Starfalls. You will be able to maintain multiple Starfalls, and you'll be using your moon spells to generate your astral power. But like I said, I can't actually use it myself. Thank you for watching this guide for the rotational changes for tier 21 for balanced druids. All of the guides and all of the information is linked in the description section. Please do check it out. If you have any more questions, please go to the Balanced Druid Discord if you have any more questions and things like that. Because there's a lot of confusion about the rotational changes, and improving yourself is the key. So make sure you check out these guides. If you're unsure about anything, leave comments below the video. I'll try and get to them. I'll try and keep this guide updated with latest changes. Maybe there's some kind of a tier crafting being changed. Maybe there's another legendary who becomes better and things like that. But right now, balanced druids are going through a interesting phase where the rotation is changing. It hasn't happened for a little while, so a lot of people are somewhat confused about it. But thank you for watching this guide, and I'll see you in my next video.